What's up, guys? There's a lot of discussion right now going around whether Bungie should just give up on Destiny 2 and make a D3 or not. So, in this video, I wanted to go ahead and give my opinion on that. Now, I am reading from a script, so if you see me looking down here, that's why I wanted to make sure that I got all the ideas and all my thoughts together. So, I wrote a script just to go ahead and do that. So, I'll send it over to Past Me. Let me know if you enjoyed the video. Hey everybody. Now before we get into the video, this is going to be a long video with a lot of talking and me giving my ideas and opinions. So who am I? I'm a Destiny player that has played this game since D1. I've taken breaks, I've skipped school and work to play new DLCs, I've raided, I've grinded, I've uninstalled Destiny. This game has grown with me and is easily my favorite game to play. That is my background and why I feel I can make this video. Is D3 the correct move for Bungie? The short answer is no, unless they change the way they approach content. Bungie needs to switch back to a player-first content system, bring back the creativity and the cutting-edge Bungie, and Bungie is at its best when they are pushing the envelope. And I think a big reason Bungie isn't doing the best job right now is because they are low on manpower. Any major changes to Destiny will only come if there's a high investment in the future of the game. So with that in mind, let's talk about what D3 should look like in my opinion, and with the idea that Bungie will have all the resources and the manpower they need. So starting with the new player experience. The new player experience is very diverse. Some say that the new player experience is great because you get swamped with so much content to go and do. Bungie wants the new player to go and play with their friends, so they sort of give you everything you need to get started and get into the end game. Your power scales with the highest player in your fire team, and green and blue weapons are thrown out pretty quickly once you reach the end of the intro. On the other hand, this lack of handholding through your super and abilities and things like mods, build crafting, and debuffs seem to be a big gripe with new players. Now, I recently in my streams, link in the description, wrong app. Recently in one of my streams, a new player came in. Well, he was a new player. They don't play Destiny. They came across my stream, they asked about the game, and I started to explain to them what a Titan is. I was playing on my Titan, and I explained to them this is the tank character. And then they asked me, oh, so you like take aggro. And I was like, well, not exactly, that's not in this game. I explained to them, since I was using solar at the time, that solar is all about healing. But they didn't understand that a tank is healing themselves. So I explained to them that, well, solar has these things like cure and restoration, and that heals you, and then arc is kind of like you want to go fast and do damage. So when I swapped over to arc, they were expecting something like Warframe where it's speed, but that wasn't really the case either. And I had to explain to them, well, you get amplified and then you get a speed booster. And it, in the moment, I realized just how difficult it was to explain the entirety of the game, having been somebody who's played it since the beginning and explaining that to someone who's never played it. And I understood in that moment just what people meant when they said it's too much. If you're a new player and you have no idea what you're doing and you have no friends to guide you through the game, you aren't told what the mods do, what orbs of power, like how they work and how you can benefit from them, your buffs and debuffs, the subclass verbs, how they work, how to build craft with them. You're kind of thrusted into all that and to fend for yourself and figure it out, which is partly good because obviously you can figure that stuff out through gameplay, but it's just difficult having to go through that all by yourself with no direction. You're dropping someone in a forest and telling them, find your way out while they're blindfolded. Like they can't. There's no sense. Like they can't. In that metaphor, you would use the sun to find the direction you need to go, right? East, west, whatever. But you have no direction. You have no hint as to where to go. So that needs to change. So how do we fix this? I think first Bungie needs to condense the story. As a new player getting thrown into the latest season, it's jarring. You have no clue what is going on. You have no history or any reason to care about the current season. Bungie needs to condense the entire story of Destiny to the main points and allow new players to get familiar with the world. This will also serve as a place for players to get used to their supers, abilities as they explore the lore and the world of Destiny. This gets players invested in the world, and when they reach the current season, they will have a reason to go and play. As well, I think with the firing range in the game now, you can have Ada 1 do a Call of Duty MW2 style training where you get to run through your abilities and different buffs on different subclasses. Just so there is less fumbling around on your own if you don't have friends to explain everything to you. Now, loot is the second thing that needs a major overhaul. Not only does it need to be worth going to get, but there are certain things that need to be added that I think will really help the game. Now, there's different things that I want to talk about, but I will talk about them when I get to them. For this section, new players need to progress through the color wheel of loot. Starting out with common white gear and earning a blue and eventually earning a legendary gear is what made the Destiny loot system so good. It felt like the loot was actually legendary. Get new players invested and keep them invested. Since we have talked about loot, here is my idea for the general loot system. Take D1 loot system with a D2 tier system and make a hybrid of the two. The grind in D1 was hard and grindy, but that is good so long as the loot feels powerful and worthwhile. Bungie tried to bring back the grind by making power hard to acquire. However, the loot and content is dry. With Edge of Fate, the power cap should have been 500. Every 100 levels, you unlock the ability to earn the next tier of gear. So 10 through 199 would be tier 1. Then once you hit 200, your drops now become tier 2. Then when you reach 500, your base gear will be tier 4 with a 40% chance to get tier 5. I'm throwing out random numbers here. Just bear with me just for the example. So tier 5s are given out and still feel somewhat rare at a high level, yet common enough that a grinder will still feel rewarded. With this, you can allow all players to reach 500, with the raid being the best way to get power and tier 5s. With Ash and Iron, Bungie should have raised the power by 50 and made it so the epic raid was the only way to reach this power cap. Yes, Bungie needs to bring exclusivity back, at least in the way that I'm proposing. A free-to-play player can still reach tier 5s and hit the max power cap. However, a player who paid for the DLC gets a power bump and exclusive gear and a bonus to their tier 5 earnings. So at 500, you'd have a 40% chance at a tier 5. At 550, you'd have a 60% chance. This gives incentive for players to buy the DLC since money is the reality we live in. However, a free-to-play player doesn't have that big a disadvantage. They can still earn tier 5s, be at max power. They just won't be as efficient in their grind as someone who paid money. Now, this is to say that weapons in the epic raid have to be carefully crafted. They can't be paid to win. Make them strong, make them valuable. However, don't set them on such a high tier that a free-to-play player can't keep up. On this idea of exclusivity, exotics need to be exotic again also. In D1, you saw others exotics and wanted them. Same with weapons and other gear. Build crafting is great. However, exotics have become so common, no one is excited to get an exotic engram. Then, after Ash and Iron, in Renegades, Bungie would reset everyone back to 500, and you would grind another 50 levels to 550 if you bought the DLC. Then, in the next update, you grind another 50 to get to 600. Then, in the next DLC, it would reset again. A constant power chase every season without a big decrease in loot tiers. Yet, the power grind Bungie wants is still there. If the content is. Speaking of content, let's talk about strikes. Strike specific loot needs to come back. Here is how I would do it. I'd create an armor bonus that is strike exclusive and create a set for each class that is themed around every planet aesthetically. Then I'd split the 5 pieces across the strikes that fit that armor set. So the inverted spire takes place on Nessus, so you could get the Nessus armor from that strike. However, on that strike, hunters can earn the cloak, titans can earn the chest piece, and warlocks can earn the helmet. And only those pieces. So you give some replayability to all the strikes and a little bit of target farming if players want to get specific pieces. As well, I'd create a weapon for every strike. So say Nessus has 4 strikes, I'd make 4 weapons. To make this easy, I'd come with a brand new model, no reskins for this strike guns because we will be using the base models across all the strikes. Create a new model for the weapons and add planet aesthetics, then moving them across the planets. So a Nessus hand cannon might be floral and Vex like, but the same model on a Mars strike might look more Cabal and military like. I understand reskins are for ease of use, but for this, Bungie needs to set them apart. They would come up with their own origin trait and whatever Vanguard trait. So Nessus has 4 strikes. That would be a hand cannon, an auto rifle, sniper, rocket. Then same with armor. I'd split them across the 4 strikes. I think this is a good idea that brings strikes back into relevance. Strikes in D1 had some strike specific loot like the Grasp of Malak, the hunter cloaks from the Mars strike, the hunter helmet that was like all gooey. Like that stuff was iconic. That stuff made strikes worth going and grinding. You're waiting, hoping you got that piece, hoping you got that hand cannon, the Imago loop, hoping you got that piece of loot. And I think this is a great way to have a big loot pool, have a lot of things for people to go and get, yet make it so that you can just go grind every single strike and try to get all the pieces, or choose to go do a specific strike and regrind that strike until you got the piece you wanted. Now, PvP has been neglected for too long and needs to be revitalized. Iron Banner needs a rework and needs to be worth playing. Same with Trials. Anti-cheat needs to be updated, new maps created, and all that. Yes, yes, yes. I agree. All that is a given. I think when it comes to PvP, the biggest thing Bungie should bring back is pinnacle weapons. Yes, it is alienating some players, but the grind is difficult and earning those weapons is your trophy. Matchmaking already is set up to swap you between stomping and getting stomped. What does it matter if it's to a pinnacle weapon or not? Give comp its own set bonus, make PvP builds matter, and matchmaking needs to be fair. How to do that? I'm not sure. I play PvP a lot, and there is a lot of others that still play regardless of its lack of any sort of update. Now, I want to get into events. I think Bungie has done a great job with the current event system they're doing. However, the only event that I think the community has really taken to was Solstice, because your tiers got boosted, loot was boosted, and everybody was earning tier 5s left and right. When it comes to Arms Week and other events, it's kind of been lackluster because it's the same weapons. Even in Iron Banner, you could earn the new hand cannon that was lackluster, and you could earn the shotgun that you had already gotten from Arms Week before, except with a new hollow skin, which isn't worthwhile because then after that Iron Banner, we had the shotgun again. So it wasn't worthwhile. So before we get into the end game, I want to talk about general things. Kepler focusing needs to be on everyone. I want to be able to focus all the loot that I want. If I'm playing Trials, I should be able to go to Saint and choose which weapons I want or what armor piece while I play. Same for Vanguard, Crucible, and even going to Banshee to focus world loot. The Kepler system is great since it increases your chances but will still drop other loot. Factions need to make a return. Give them the same treatment as strikes, new weapon models, and armor set bonus that fits the faction. Bungie has so many frames and archetypes that they could give each faction a different weapon that will never overlap. This is a background grind that will happen as I play everything and still gives me rewards. Once a season, you can have a rally week where the faction that wins gets an exclusive weapon and boosts to loot. And yes, again, make it exclusive. Give everyone a loot box that has a weapon and armor piece from the winning faction, but those who support the faction during the week get a bonus loot from the faction until the next rally. This brings me to the next rally style event, the true Arms Week event. This is my take, all right? This is my take. Arms Week should revolve around the gun manufacturers, Suros, Hake, Amalon, along with Tex Machina and others. Same formula, make new models, pick a handful of weapons, and force the player to choose a manufacturer for the week. Winner gets an exclusive weapon, and then it's gone until the next rally. And players will have to choose one for the week, no swapping. Those are just a few ideas I've had that I think could have some serious player retention. And during the week, players will earn loot from their manufacturers. That way there's still loot incentive. So you choose Hake, for example, right? You want to support Hake. You love Hake weapons. You want to support Hake. You get, say, your Hake weapon. Now that you could make those weapons exclusive. You can't earn them from anywhere else. You can only get them from that event. It's an auto rifle. You take that auto rifle and you go and complete bounties or challenges for your specific manufacturer. At the end of the week, you win. So you get a tier 5 of an exclusive Hake weapon that only is Hake. So Hake has right now in the game they have a auto rifle, there's a hand cannon, there's a SMG, scout rifle, rocket launcher, and I think that's it. So say you play Hake, you get your auto rifle, you're earning loot, Hake armor, Hake weapons that are already in the game that I mentioned, and Hake wins the week. Well, since you supported Hake, here is a Hake machine gun that's not in the game, that's only exclusive to Hake supporters when you win the rally. Here you go. And until the next rally, this is added to your loot pool. It is just a constant background that will pop up every time. It's a separate roll table. Make it 50-50 for all I fucking care. Every time you complete a mission, you get your normal loot, and then this one rolls 50-50 whether you get one or not. And then you go. That is what Arms Week should be. Not this hand cannon special whatever they have going on. I don't know how Bungie missed out on this. It was right there. You have the factions. They should have used them. That's just my opinion. Now, endgame is hard for me to comment on since I don't play it a lot. I'm a solo player, and if I want to raid, I need to LFG. So, as sad as it is to say, I think endgame players need to grind old content. So what can we do for the top tier players? Give them exclusive loot. Now, this is only exclusive until you hit 500. For example, Vault of Glass gets a tier glow up treatment. Going and grinding for a Fatebringer again isn't fun. But just to add some variety, add the missing weapons. The auto rifle and the fusion are not in the game, so add them. Maybe even a new weapon like a pulse for those who hit 500 power. Do this for all the raids in every dungeon. And by this I mean the auto, the fusion, and the pulse would be 500 and above exclusive. So your loot table goes from the basic Vault of Glass weapons. When you hit 500 and you go do that raid, you now add those 3 weapons that you can then focus at the end of the raid and earn throughout the raid. Then do the same for all the new dungeons. At the very top tier, there's very little to do, but this will at least give them something to go and get. Lastly, how do you address player traffic? Players want to play their way. However, having all the modifier options with little content is extremely underwhelming. I think bringing back a rotating playlist is the way to go. Solo Ops can have everything that it has now. However, it will only get you through the power grind. Nothing else, not exclusive rewards, and the lowest power bump. So solo ops will only give you +1s. Fireteam ops will stay the same, except put a strike playlist in the fireteam ops, and everything else can stay the same. That way strikes are match made. Also, matchmaking will match you with guardians close to your power, and the difficulty will match also. So think of it like this. You click fireteam ops, you hit strikes. If you are 450, it will tell you your difficulty is Grandmaster and show you the modifiers, then launch you into the matchmaking. Preset modifiers are fine for matchmaking, but keep the customization for when we launch the strike directly. Because remember, if we're adding strike specific loot, and I specifically want to go get that weapon and armor piece from that one strike, I can go to that strike, click it, hit Grandmaster, the customization menu will come up, and then I can choose my modifiers, go run that strike for that one loot. If I don't want to grind specific loot and I just want to play strikes just to power level and get strike specific loot, I can do all the strikes. Here's the playlist, go do it. Then Pinnacles will have old raids, dungeons on a rotator. Same thing as strikes, add modifiers that scale with difficulty, however, make them less potent as raids can already be difficult. Make this on a weekly rotator that is farmable. Then you have the PvP playlist that is relatively the same. That is what I think D3 should look like, or at least a start. When it comes to continuing to innovate and make new content, that is for game developers. I just play the game and I know what I would like in the game as someone who plays a lot. Now, can all of this stuff be implemented into the current D2 system? Yes, it can. Will it take a long time? Yes, it's going to be very, very tedious and long, and it's going to be hell to get there. But I don't think a D3 is bad. A lot of people, myself included, when we finished Final Shape, I thought that was it for Destiny. I felt complete. If that was the way Destiny ended, I was happy. It had been 10 years. I had been going through this entire story, and I was happy if that was the end. I shed my tears, I said my goodbyes, and I was happy if that was going to be the end. And then Edge of Fate happened, and I want to play more Destiny. However, you're dealing with all of the baggage that Destiny 2 has. If you were to jump to a D3, you could start fresh, wipe everybody clean, and make it so that exotics are exotic. You have to grind through the green and the blue tiers and do that, make it like that again. But doing that now in a D2 where everybody already has their vaults full and we have all this loot and exotics, it's gonna be hard to get the player base are on board with that. A D3 at least lets you wipe the slate clean. Now, my pitch, if you made it to the end of the video, you get bonus here. My pitch for D3, and you'll probably get it from the title of this video. I already have it in my head. The 9, there's an event that happens in the future that the 9 weren't anticipating. Somehow they didn't see it, and they rip us from our reality and send us, like, I don't know, 1,000 years into the future. When they rip us, the travel rips all our armor and all our gear. We're left with just like our basic clothing. Our guns fly off of us, and we're bamfed into the future. We got no weapons. We got no armor. The Vanguard is there. You can even like kill off the old Vanguard. They died in some calamity, and this is the new Vanguard. We have a new tower, all this stuff. Introduces new characters. What's going on? You can have the Lodi. You can have Lodi be the emissary, and he's like, holy shit, you're here finally. They have gone through this 1,000 years waiting for you to get here to help, and the 9 simply ripped you. So for us, it's been seconds, but for them, it's been 1,000 years, and you have to now help them defeat whatever calamity the 9 were already alluding to in Edge of Fate. Then we have people starting at 0 power. They have no gear. And it's a hard reset on everything, basically. It's like the Red War. Our vaults are destroyed. Well, they're not destroyed. They're old. They don't exist anymore. Our armor was stripped. We are given, common gear to wear and common weapons to use while we go and fight. And we start again, like in D1 and the beginning of D2. That is my pitch for D3. The title is Destiny Beyond. You don't want to call it D3 because then that implies that there could be a D4. You want to say Destiny Beyond because then you could constantly update this game, and that is what it's going to be. You need to put it in a way where you have the main story that is playable, or you don't even, at this point, you don't even have to have the old D1 D2 story. You can just start with a new story. You can make it as long as you want, and then once that content becomes obsolete, condense it to just the major hit points, and then leave that in the game and take everything else out, because those missions where I need to go and unlock the area that I need to then go do the actual mission in, I don't need to do that while I'm doing the main story. Just start, finish, the area's already unlocked. I just go do the mission, and then the condense, and then that leaves room for other content that you're going to add, and you do the same thing and you keep doing that. So the content mainly stays in the game, but the filler is gone. Just my idea. I'm just a guy. But hey, it sounds good to me. Anyway, if you stayed this long, you're awesome, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, because I think this is a big topic going on right now, and I don't know what side I'm on. I think Destiny 2 can save itself, but it's gonna be hard. But I think a D3 might be a good option. I'd wait 4 years for a good D3 game. I'd play the game. I'd come back because I love Destiny. But let me know in the comments. Let me know if you enjoyed the video, and if you want to catch me live, like I said earlier, in the description there's gonna be a link. Drop a follow over there, because we're streaming Destiny until the servers turn off. We're also streaming other games like Tekken, Apex, and Arc Raiders when it comes out. So drop a follow over there, drop a sub here, and I'll catch you in the next video.